All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our quarterly Education Research Center Advisory Board meeting. We'll get started with agenda item 1, call to order and remarks. First, I'll start with taking attendance for the board members. Jacqueline?
Here.
Eugene?
Here.
Holly?
Yes.
Celeste?
Here.
Linda?
Here.
Angie? Kathy?
Here.
And we have 2 new members, Rayon
Here.
and Megan.
Here.
Great. The next item is to welcome our new board members. So I'll just quickly introduce them and I'll let them say something if they would like. No pressure, only if you want to. But we have 2 new members to represent K-12 on the board. First is Megan Spencer, who's the Executive Director of Enterprise Systems at Austin ISD. And we also have Rayon Amine, the Chief of School Improvement and Accountability at ALEAF ISD. And actually, Rayon has some experience with the ERC board, so we're happy to have her back. Megan and Rayon, feel free to introduce yourself if you would like.
Thank you very much. I'll jump in. My name is Rayon Amin, and I'm the Chief of School Improvement and Accountability in ALEAF ISD. And I am delighted to be here and to serve on the ERC board. I have been part of this board years ago before going overseas with my family for a few years, and I have the utmost respect for the work. The vision behind the ERC is one that I wholeheartedly believe in, and I believe that it will afford our great state the opportunity to continue to be a leader in producing the most competitive workforce. Very glad to be here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Spencer. Excited to be here. This is my first experience with the ERC, so I'm very much looking forward to being a part of this group and really learn about the work. I've been in education for a number of years, as many of us have. Most recently in Texas, I was in Northern California for 20 years, and excited to be back in Texas and diving into this important work around data and student data. So thank you.
Thanks to you both. I also want to give a chance to the UT Dallas ERC folks to talk about a conference that will be happening in May to honor Rodney Andrews. So Holly or Trey, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, Trey, do you want to tell board members
Sure.
more about it?
Yeah, so we are very pleased and honored to announce that we are collaborating with the editors of the Economics of Education Review and Review of Black Political Economy to host a conference to commemorate the work of Rodney Andrews, May 31st to June 1st of this year. There's a call for proposals that the journal editors have put out, papers that are selected for presentation at this conference will be considered for special issues honoring the work of Rodney Andrews, our great colleague and friend. The call request papers that are in line with kind of carrying on the legacy of his work, focused on different aspects of his research. So we'll be accepting, I believe, 14 papers. The editors of the journals will be choosing the papers to be presented at the conference. But it'll be here at UT Dallas, so we're excited to and honored to be able to carry out Rodney's legacy in this way. I also want to say that one of the priorities for papers submitted and considered by the journals for this work are papers that draw on administrative data, and in particularly calling out administrative data from Texas and the ERC program. So, we want to share this, Celeste and Kathy, the call for proposals with you, and we hope you'll share those with your colleagues and researchers and everyone else here. We want to make you aware so that you can, submit papers and proposals, and we can all honor Rodney in this way.
Yeah, so Trey provided some very, high level information, but we're happy to send an email with more detailed information so you can disseminate it to your colleagues. And we also have that information on our website, on the TSP website. So again, that's another way to find more information about the conference.
Thank you both for doing that. That's incredible.
That's exciting opportunity.
Yes.
All right, our next item on the agenda is public testimony. We don't have anyone scheduled for that today. So item number 4, consideration and possible action to approve additional data and amendment requests. Let me confirm, Holly, data 3 is withdrawn, correct?
Yes, that is withdrawn from consideration.
All right, so starting with data 1, UTA 176, the effect of education on non-pecuniary outcomes. Any questions or comments from the board on this? Oh, and sorry, I was supposed to remind you before we started too. When we do motions and seconds, please say your name so we can make sure to record that information. Okay. Questions or comments from the board on data 1? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Holly, I motion to approve.
Kathy, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, data 2, UTD 126 returns to graduate education. Questions, comments from the board? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Jackie. I move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Right, data 4, UTD 161, education in the future of the Texas labor force. Questions or comments? I have a motion to approve.
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
I second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Data 5, UH 056, the impact of 8th grade reclassification on secondary, post-secondary, and labor market outcomes for English learners in Texas. Questions or comments?
I just had one comment, and this is really more for Linda Rosca. The SAT, ACT data was requested. Is that possible, Linda?
That would have to be approved by the testing companies.
So. Okay, yes, so I believe we're gonna need to hold on that piece of it, so, if, right, and I'll ask the board, would this be something you want to, amend to remove that request and ask the researcher to see if this is an option and then later come back with a supplementary data request?
This being requested from
Yes, hello.
what's available at THECB?
Oh, good question. The researcher here?
That's what their table says.
Yeah, it does say that.
Okay, I mean, so that is available with, I mean, some of that is available on the 002. So if that's what is
Yes, that's,
requested, okay.
Okay.
Melissa,
great.
Melissa, I think the researcher is on the call, just in case you want.
Yes,
Yes.
great. Yes, can you clarify if, was it meant to be what's available on the CVM 002?
yes, it's what is available there, so
Great,
we are fine.
thank you. Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, any other questions? A motion to approve?
I move to approve Celeste.
This is Rayan. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks. All right, so item number 5, consideration of possible action to approve extension requests. Extension 1, UTD 102, the effects of special education on short and long run student achievement. Questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
Yeah, this is Angie. I move to approve.
Oh, I second Holly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Right, extension 2, UTD 117, how do public health policies impact educational outcomes? Questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Kathy. I move to approve.
Second,
I second Holly.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Right, extension 3, UTD 158, the effects of changes in resources on outcomes for students in Texas. Questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve? I move to approve. Second,
This is Jacqueline. I second.
you, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, extension 4, UTD 160, the effect of bilingual education, non-test score, and long-run outcomes. Questions? Not to approve. I move to approve.
Kathy, I'm following whoever just said that. Who is?
Melissa. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Extension 5, UH 40, school closures and student outcomes. Questions? Motion to approve.
I move to approve Celeste.
I second Holly.
Favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Extension 6, UH 52, the effects of lowering high school grad requirements on post-secondary educational attainment and labor market outcomes. Questions or comments? Matt, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Angie. I'll move to approve.
This is Jackie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Great, y'all. We are moving and grooving. Okay. Item 6. Consideration and possible action to approve new research projects. Let's dig in. Proposal 1, including remote access request UTA 230 beyond the ABCs and IBCs. I love that title. Mixed methods and longitudinal examination of industry-based certifications in Texas. So we have the researchers here to talk to us about this.
Hi, everyone. Good to see friendly faces, as always. Given that this is the most efficient ERC meeting I've probably ever been a part of, I will provide a brief overview and then turn it to the advisory board. As I discuss my proposal, this is kind of an extension of my previous research on the role of industry-based certifications in Texas. I included a couple key findings from my prior research. Essentially, the purpose of this project is to extend that research in 2 ways. To look at students' longitudinal outcomes and look at the relationship between industry certifications and students' longitudinal outcomes, both post-secondary education and employment. And then I'll also couple the quantitative ERC analyses I propose with additional qualitative research. I was able to interview some students in my prior research, but that qualitative research will be extended to really examine the role of a variety of school level and student factors in shaping students' perceptions of and acquisition of certifications. Yeah, I'll pause there and see if y'all have any questions or feedback.
Great. Anyone have questions or comments? I appreciated the clear background and connection from the questions to the data, so I don't have any follow-up questions.
Thank you.
Just one comment, Matt. The IBC data was moved out of the graduate file and into its own separate file, so I think you need to request those files as well.
That's right. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah, I did mention that in the list of variables, but that would be the separate files. Thanks for that.
Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm pulling up. So does that mean we need to do an amendment to the data table?
I think that would be best, just to be clear that I am requesting those specific files that list the certification students received.
Any other questions or comments? All right, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment to add the TEA IBC file?
This is Rayan. I move to approve.
This is Holly. I second.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right, proposal 2, including remote access request, UTA 231, access to frontier knowledge in college and labor market success. Someone here to talk to us about this?
Yes. Introducing myself because this is my first board meeting. My name is Barbara Biazzi, and I am an assistant professor of economics at the School of Management at Yale University. I'll give you an overview of this project and then tell you a little bit about how we're planning on using ERC data for it. So the broad kind of object of this project is to try and understand how the content of higher education courses impact students both as they go through college as well as later on when they enter the labor market. And in particular, the dimension of content that we're interested in studying is access to frontier knowledge. So to the extent to which what's being taught in college is kind of close to where the frontier of knowledge really is in each course's particular field. And the way that we're planning on measuring this is by using the text of course syllabi. And we've done quite a bit of kind of preliminary work using a sample of about 2 million syllabi across a set of universities in the entire country. And we have devised an algorithm that essentially takes the text of the syllabus and compares it to academic papers published in top journals in each field, kind of relatively close in time to when that course is being taught. And so we deem a course to be close to the research frontier if the content of the course as it is described in the syllabus kind of resembles what's being published in academic papers. And so using this measure, we have documented quite a bit of variation, both across schools as well as within schools in the entire country. And this is true in schools, in kind of institutions at all levels of selectivity, public and private. And we have also discovered that instructors seem to play a particularly big role, perhaps not surprisingly, in whether the courses that they teach are close to the research frontier or not. Now, what we want to do next, and this is where the ERC data comes in, is we want to draw a link between access to frontier knowledge and students' outcomes. And so our plan is to collect essentially the universe of syllabi of courses taught in the last 13 years in public universities in Texas, and then calculate this measure of distance from the frontier for each course taught in each semester, department, etc., with the records of the students that took each course. And the idea is to use turnover of instructors across time to identify the impact of content on student outcomes. And in terms of student outcomes, we are planning to look at graduation, on-time graduation, and also earnings. And so our plan is to essentially build a data set that contains a set of identifiers for each course in each semester and year, our measure of knowledge proximity, and then bring that in as supplemental data to be linked with ERC data. This is our plan.
You. Any questions or comments from the board? A quick comment. I think we need to update the data table because it asks for OC1 twice. And the second one, the census student schedule report, is the OCS. I just want to make sure it's all documented which data we're asking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Not, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment of adding the OCS?
This is Holly. I motion to approve.
This is Angie. I'll second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, proposal 3, including remote access request UTA 232, impact of congenital heart disease on academic achievement and employment. Someone here to talk to us about this project?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to present our proposal. I'm Andrew Well. I'm the Assistant Director for Health Transformation and Patient Experience at the Texas Center for Pediatric and Congenital Heart Disease here at Dell Children's Medical Center in Austin. I'm also an assistant professor in the Department of Surgery at Dell Med. So the background behind this idea and this proposal is kids with congenital heart disease are known to be at higher risk for neurodevelopmental delays. It's multifactorial, genetic, in utero, changes in hemodynamics and blood flow, after birth, individuals or children requiring early surgery within the first days to weeks of life, prolonged hospitalizations during that time and throughout their lives. There have been smaller studies and investigations showing a disparity between those with congenital heart disease and their non-congenital heart disease peers in their academic achievement, but it's never been looked at a large scale. So our proposal is to utilize the education and employment data within the ERC, link that with Texas Medicaid data, which Texas Medicaid will cover a substantial number of the kids in Texas that have congenital heart disease, at least at the beginning, so we'll be able to identify them and utilize some of those clinical factors to look at the impact of different clinical characteristics, such as diagnoses, timing of diagnoses, timing of surgery, types of surgeries, and those impacts on the educational and employment outcomes. So our three aims would be to, number one, just describe what the educational and employment outcomes are of, excuse me, individuals with congenital heart disease. Aim two is to compare different clinical factors and how those may impact the outcomes of educational outcomes and employment outcomes. And then three would be to compare those outcomes between CHD and a matched population without known CHD. Thank you again for the opportunity and the consideration of this proposal. I'm happy to take any questions or add comment.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I'm just curious if you can expand a little bit on how your research will inform education interventions. There is a section on, how this project will benefit education, but you use the term education interventions very broadly. And so I'm just wondering if you could provide a little bit more specificity, because I did notice that your kind of target audience are clinicians. But as you know, that the ERC program has a mandate of informing education policy and practice. And so I'm just wondering if you could just kind of build on what you wrote in your proposal to give us a better sense of how your proposal will benefit Texas education.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. Obviously, I'm showing my background as a clinician in the proposal. So a couple of ways that I see this potentially impacting education policy and practice. One is, in the neurodevelopmental realm in congenital heart disease, early intervention, ECI, has been shown to improve neurodevelopmental outcomes. So number one, I could see this being an identification of there still exists a gap between, or discrepancy between the outcomes. Is there an opportunity then to create further intervention along ECI or some other form of that? I don't want to throw out terms that I'm not as comfortable with, but can we continue a intervention beyond what is typically done? The other thing that I think that this could inform is, to a larger extent, just a understanding and an awareness of this differential. One of the things that we run into very frequently with our kiddos as they're aging and going into school is when they hit those school ages, schools are wildly uncomfortable with the potential medical complexity and don't have, it's 1 in 100 births, but it's still rare for any single teacher or school to have much experience with this, to understand that this discrepancy does exist, and maybe identify those that are at higher risk for underperforming and identifying those that may need needs going forward, whether that's a policy intervention or just an informational. I'm not a policy expert, so I can imagine both of those going. I hope that answers your question in a somewhat eloquent way.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what kinds of interventions already exist to support the student population? Are there any that you know of? And
Not anything special that's related to congenital heart disease.
Okay.
A lot of these kids potentially could have, IEPs and special ed type work, but that is if they are currently tapped into the health system, and that ends up, initiating those. And unfortunately, a significant number of these kids get lost to follow-up. Somewhere between an intervention in early childhood and when they hit elementary school and really engage. So they aren't actually engaged with a congenital heart expert at that point. So big question mark of how many of these kids who actually need those special services are actually getting them. So that would be one place is just, hey, you have congenital heart disease. If we show this big difference in a subset of the congenital heart disease, let's make sure every single one of these kids is evaluated and has just has that ability to get the resources that they already should be eligible to get.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Any other
questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Kathy. To build on Holly's question, I wonder if, and thank you for the response. Definitely added clarity. I wonder if there's opportunity in the proposal. Like I keep coming back to, some of what you just articulated being reflected in the original proposal and being more explicit about, to pull on IES language, for example, like what the malleable factors are. And so to understand the answers to your question leads to what kind of opportunity to change ed policy, or as you said, to have clarity even of relationship, to be able to consider what ed policy might be most relevant. And I think you did a really nice job of explaining that. I don't know the extent to which having that more fully explicated in the proposal itself helps shore up other questions or not. That's just a wondering I have, Melissa, maybe for you.
I mean, to your point, Kathy, I think the proposal would benefit from more specificity around the different levers this proposal could potentially inform. So I agree with you that the proposal could be strengthened in that way.
I was just going to add, just because I've been in the schools and I used to do the testing and also worked in genetics in a developmental disabilities clinic. So the background too would be that the clinicians learn what needs to be requested by the parents and can understand the school system a little bit better. And, although Andrew didn't mention this, many of them will be in special ed, particularly if they have, say, Down syndrome, because many of them have the congenital heart disease. But if, he could help train the clinicians on what they find out and what services can be requested for these students, I think that would help their educational trajectory as well.
Your point is well taken, Celeste.
Yes, thank you for that.
They're great suggestions. Any other questions or comments from the board? I had one follow-up just because I don't know this literature very well. You're looking over a lot of years, and you did note 1 in 10 births. This affects 1 in 10 births. But as you add, looking at some of the variables that you'll be pulling in, I'm just wondering if we're going to get into small cells very quickly when we're considering all of the various, specific classifications and
absolutely
information. So just wanted to to hear you talk through like what are ways that you could still do your study. I'm sure you can, but would like to hear from you. Still do it, but while protecting the data.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And just to clarify, it's 1 in 100. It's 1% of births. So it's rare, but not super rare. So a couple thousand births a year. So the way that I would approach looking at, in particular, the clinical variables would be to group them in larger groups and not get quite into the weeds, which is something that we wouldn't be able to do anyway with the Medicaid data, because that's going to be ICD codes, so that they capture a broader spectrum than say going into the electronic medical record and pulling that data, which is one of the unfortunate limitations. But it's a trade-off, volume versus granularity. So having the volume I think we will have, I don't think that the clinical variables will get us small cells. If they do get us small cells, those will probably be areas that we just exclude from analysis, because there's not going to be much to say about any of those anyway. And there are some zebras, very rare conditions within congenital heart disease and very rare combinations. But those very rare things are really not what we're interested in this first go. Like, we want to know, we don't even know what the run of the mill congenital heart disease are. So if we can just get those and get rid of some of the more complex ones, that would be a win on our side.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I just wanted to add that on page 12, you listed semester credit hours under CBM 001s. Semester credit hours, you would need to get that from OCS or WS.
If that is something that would require extra approval, I am happy to take it out.
Depending on,
it could be added.
it could be added through an amendment, and we can talk through
Okay.
do that. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we talk about goals? So I think it's a good idea to ask for some more of that specific information about policy levers, educational policy levers. And you already gave some good examples, and it sounds like you got some good ideas in the meeting too. But for the board, would this be something you would feel comfortable approving with the amendment that this is added? Or would you feel more comfortable that we wait to approve after we've reread it with this information?
And I will add that I'd be happy to work with them on, my experience with the schools and services available for students, which I guess would then be able to be addressed with policy changes.
I will speak only for myself to say I would be comfortable having an approval, a condition, whatever the language is, an approval with the assumption that Celeste and the coordinating board folks would work to ensure that everything was finalized in reflection of discussion.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Same.
Okay. Then do I have a motion? Try to crack this. To approve with the amendment of additional educational policy information and the addition of the CBM OCS.
A motion to approve. Holly?
I'll second it, Megan.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much for talking with us today. This is important.
Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you all and moving this project forward. Thank you.
All right, proposal 4, including remote access, UTA 223, good jobs and great cities. San Antonio's Ready to Work initiative.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce our proposer. I'm Han Lee, an assistant professor at the Department of Education Psychology at UTSA. Here, I propose a project to evaluate the effectiveness of Ready to Work programs initiated by the city of San Antonio. San Antonio is one of the most populous and diverse cities in Texas, but it faces serious challenges like high poverty rates, education disparities, and shortage of skilled workers. And these problems was worsened by COVID-19. In response to these challenges, City of San Antonio launched the Ready to Work program. It's innovative programs that brings together local stakeholders in education, case management services, and employers. For example, like local employers provide insights into the specific skills they are seeking in potential employees. Then the case management partners, they share this market information with program participants. This helps them choose degree programs and majors. So far, 11 organizations offered case management services, and nearly all higher education institutions in San Antonio are engaged in providing education and training to them. This program is expected to end in 2028. And so far, 8,300 people have been admitted to this program. 5,300 have enrolled in education programs, and 800 completed training. One challenge in evaluating this program is that the program only collects data for those who are admitted to the program. To measure the impact of the programs, we need control groups, but there's no way to construct these control groups without access to ERC data. Also, once participants complete training and leave the programs, it is very difficult to track their labor market outcomes. But these employment-related outcomes are essential variables to determine the successfulness of the program, so we need it. The control groups that we are considering are people who drop out of the program during the admission phase of the program, and those who never applied to Ready to Work programs, but complete similar education programs as the program participants. And comparing the outcomes before and after the program participation between the treatment and control groups, I think that can be a good reasonable starting point for identifying program effects. I can talk a little bit about the education policy, how this impacts on Texas education landscape. The Ready to Work programs provides a new education model. Previous training models more focused on case management services mostly, but Ready to Work engaged with local employers, and here's what skills they are looking for from their employees. So we can easily observe mismatches between what employers want and the skills employees have. If this model works, all the components of the programs evaluated can be a good source of information for City of San Antonio future training education programs, as well as other public agencies in Texas, outside of Texas, who are interested in this type of program. Lastly, we do have supplemental data. This data will have social security numbers of those who are admitted to the programs and some program-related information. Thank you. And then I'm here to hear your comments and questions.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? I had a question about the number of people involved in the program. You mentioned it at the beginning.
Yeah.
What you just said, could you repeat that?
Yeah, so far, 8,300 people, they have been admitted to the programs. 5,300 have enrolled in education programs, and 800 people, they complete their training. And then actually there's some eligibility of the program. So when I counted all the people, so far more than 20,000 plus people applied to the program. But only a few, a fraction of people are admitted to the program.
There questions from the board? I'm checking one. Was this one was this one that needed more other data? I think just OC. Oh, okay. Yeah. We suggest you add the OC1 to your data list. Do that and then if there's no other.
Yes.
Well, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment to add the OC1?
This is Jackie. I motion to approve.
I second.
This is Angie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right. Proposal 5, including remote access request UTD 195. Oops, sorry. This is the opportunity, higher education, deserts, and college enrollments. We have someone here to talk to us about this project.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Camila Morales, and I'll be presenting this proposal. I'm an assistant professor at UT Dallas, and this project will be done in collaboration with Dr. Clara Cortez, who's a professor at A&M University, and Dr. Riley Acton, an assistant professor at Miami University, and both of them are on the call today. Our project is motivated by the documented significant disparities among racial and socioeconomic groups when it comes to college enrollment and persistent and even graduations. This is the case not only nationwide, but also in Texas in particular, where Black and Latino students, as well as low-income students, are less likely to enroll in post-secondary institutions. When they do, they are less likely to enroll in four-year institutions. And among those that enroll in community colleges, they have low transfer rates from 2-year to 4-year institutions. Previous studies have documented various factors that contribute to these disparities, and in our project, we build on prior work to investigate the extent to which disparities in college enrollment and transfer can be explained by students' geographic access to college and the sensitivity distance with respect to post-secondary enrollment. In particular, we're interested in looking deeply at how these factors may be different across students of various racial and socioeconomic backgrounds. So with this project, we are proposing a comprehensive examination of the geographic dispersion of post-secondary institutions in Texas and how access and higher education institutions relates to the college enrollment and college going decision. We're going to be using descriptive and regression analyses to accomplish 4 different goals. The first one is to document the geographical dispersion and distribution of 2-year and 4-year colleges in this state. And we're interested in seeing how the distribution of these institutions varies by the racial and ethnic composition of the high school graduate cohorts across the state. We will then, using data building on different cohorts and tracking their enrollment patterns, we will estimate the relationship between distance to 2-year and 4-year institutions on the likelihood of college enrollment by sector. And again, paying close attention to how this relationship might differ across students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds, as well as students that might differ in their readiness for college, as well as socioeconomic status. We're also going to conduct an analysis that will be parallel to the one I just described, where the outcome of interest will be the likelihood of transferring from a 2-year institution to a 4-year institution. And again, looking at how this relationship might be different for different student groups. And finally, we plan to conduct a series of simulation exercises where we predict the college enrollment and transfer rates for different student groups under different policy scenarios that would simulate either an expansion to college access or contraction of access to college. We believe that our study examines a topic that is of particular relevance to the state of Texas for multiple reasons. The first one, Texas provides a fitting policy context to study this. It has the second largest community college sector in the country and a robust four-year sector. It is an incredibly diverse state, both racially and ethnically. And so it really allows for this rich assessment of how access to post-secondary institutions matters when it comes to enrollment patterns across student groups. And so findings from this study will guide policymakers' efforts on increasing access to and graduation from college, which is in alignment with the 60-by-30 plan. Second, and this is very important, our project was primarily motivated by work that Dr. Kelena Cortez and I conducted as part of the Community College Finance Research Project, which guided the policy recommendations that would put forth by the Coordinating Board's Texas Commission on Community College Finance. In the report that we prepared for the commission about a year ago, we found very interesting patterns on how students of different racial and ethnic backgrounds respond to access to college. And in this project, we plan to explore this relationship further. Also, one of the recommendations that stemmed from the commission's work was to tie community college financing to positive student outcomes, and transferring from 2-year to 4-year institutions was one of these outcomes that was highlighted. And so, motivated by our prior work in this policy recommendation, we are going to be looking directly at how access to college in terms of the geographical accessibility to institutions might relate to the likelihood of transferring from 2-year to 4-year institutions across the state. Thank you for the opportunity to present the project, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Sorry, I keep unmuting the wrong thing. Yeah, questions or comments from the board?
I just have one addition. You will probably want, and Melissa probably got this too, the CBM 009. But since you're looking at completion rates, degree completion rates.
Completion rates is not one of the outcomes that we are looking at. I think that's why we decided not to request access to that particular file.
So you don't really need to know if they graduated from college or not?
For now, our project is looking at enrollment and transferring from 2-year to 4-year institutions.
Okay.
Thank you.
I want to note that WT started in fall 2020, and on your data table, you need the data from 2008 to 2020. So I'm not sure if you still would need to request WT considering it started in fall 20.
Yes, I think we will still want the transfer report just for the years that we would have access to the data. So we would have to, I guess, change the years listed in the data table.
You might, sorry, Kathy.
No, go ahead.
Just one more thing is that you might want to request W2, CBM W2, since you're looking for students' readiness for college. Those indicators are included in W2.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yes.
Could you say, this is Kathy, could you say just a little bit about how you're thinking, and if I missed it in the proposal, I'm sorry, but how you're thinking about conceptually the expansion of online courses and degrees in the public sector in Texas in this conceptualization of education deserts for this work?
Yeah, this is actually something that has come up in different places where presented our work. I think for now, what we are trying to do is control for, say, access to broadband and things like that to maybe account for whether there's access to college offerings online. Right now, our design doesn't directly look at this particular issue, but with the files that we're getting access to, we would be able to see whether students are taking the courses online or on campus. And so we can at least begin to look at what those course enrollment patterns look like and whether they differ based on the geographical distance to the different campuses. I think that's the best that we can begin to examine that with what we have, but it is something that we're thinking about more deeply because it is, as to your point, something that has increased in access over time in recent years.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. And I would just add in support of interest in what you find, like there's some work even of a decade ago that I know this is just a truncated review, but there's been some work over the last 15 years that's looked at this question. And I think it's an interesting opportunity to understand shifts in patterns as the availability and in some ways the necessity of online or the amplification of online courses, in particular in programs more broadly, has grown in the state. So I think there's a comparative space that I think is also potentially valuable in what you're doing. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I cannot get it together. Sorry. I keep forgetting. Any other questions?
So I'm just wondering, can we list out the amendments that need to be made to the proposal so we can address those?
I just wrote down two.
Okay.
One is changing the years for the T.
And what are the years?
It's only available starting in FY21.
FY21. And so the years should be.
I don't know if that's useful to y'all, but well, because it looks like everything else is ending in the FY20.
Oh, I think I misheard what you said, Melissa. You said F121 or F112?
21. The first collection was fall of 20. So it's part of the 21 school year. So is that useful to have that 1 year? I mean, it's right at the end of your study.
I think we'll rather still have that and maybe look at just that first semester for the last cohort. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And then the other one was the addition of the 002.
002. Okay.
And I assume that would be for the same year as the other.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? I'm excited about this work, so looking forward to hearing what
we are too.
All right, do I have a motion to approve with the amendment of adding the 002 and changing the years for the 00T?
I move to approve, Holly.
I second, Kathy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Proposal 6, including remote access requests, impact of labor demand on enrollment, cohort composition, major choice, and college completion. Someone here to talk to us about this project?
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Hannah Hahn, and I'm a PhD student in economics at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you guys more about my project. So the main motivation for my research comes from the fact that we want to make sure students are graduating from Texas colleges and universities with degrees in fields that are in demand in Texas, because this is important to students' outcomes after graduation, and also for the educators working in the universities and for the overall Texas economy. So my research aims to understand how students take labor market conditions into account when making their post-secondary decisions, with an emphasis on their major choice decision. Specifically, I'm interested in identifying which demographic groups are more responsive to changes in the labor market when making their major choice decision, and what role students' prior aptitude in reading and math plays. I'll also be looking at the academic performance of students who were swayed into picking a major because of labor market conditions, and determine whether they're more likely to switch majors or drop out of college than other students enrolled in their major. So to do this, I'm going to start by constructing major-specific enrollment cohorts of students by grouping together students who enrolled in a given major at a Texas college or university for each school year between 2002 and 2012. I'm going to be measuring students' prior aptitude in reading and math using high school standardized test scores, GPA in high school English and math classes, and whether the student chose to take advanced level coursework conditional on whether they were offered at their high school. I'll be measuring labor demand using commuting zone level unemployment rates. Then I'll be using a series of multivariate regressions to see if cohorts who enrolled during economic downturns are more likely to be made up of students of certain demographic groups. So these include groups based on gender, race, or ethnicity. I'm also looking at students' previous income status and also whether non-traditional students, and whether students of a certain level of prior aptitude. So whether these students are more likely to be made up of these groups than cohorts who enrolled during economic booms. I'm also going to be comparing the rates that these cohorts switch majors or drop out of college. So I believe this research is beneficial to Texas educators for two reasons. First, knowing how student decisions change based on labor market conditions can help educators anticipate changes in student enrollment, which can improve the efficiency of how institutional resources are allocated and making sure that students' course needs are met. Secondly, knowing which groups of students are more responsive to changes in the labor market and whether they're more likely to switch majors or drop out can help educators develop strategies and initiatives that reduce barriers to completion and make sure that these initiatives can be targeted towards certain student populations and their specific needs. I also anticipate this research being especially relevant for educators working in community colleges, as the open admissions policies of community colleges make their student enrollments more susceptible to fluctuations in the labor market. For that reason, I see this research as being well aligned to the goals of educators who are working to increase completion rates, especially in the more in-demand fields, something I believe is a bigger priority now with the recent passage of Texas House Bill 8, which aligns community college funding with the economic needs of Texas. Thank you for your time. This is just a very brief overview, so I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve, Celeste.
I second, Jackie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Proposal 7, including remote access requests, UTD 197, student pathways, cost analysis, and Texas community colleges. So many good community college focused projects today. It's exciting.
Hello, my name is Jesse Levin. I'm a principal research economist with American Institutes for Research. And before I start, I wanted to thank the ERC because without all of the effort that you guys put in, a lot of really high quality research would not be done. So thank you for all the time and care that you guys put into this. I want to tell you a little bit about this proposed study we have on community college pathways, and specifically we want to investigate the costs of community college pathways. And the motivation for the study is clearly that community colleges have been lauded as really an engine of economic mobility, and that's what brings our interest to it. I'm primarily a K-12 school researcher in education finance who is just dipping my toes in the water now of in the post-secondary sector. So the genesis of this work really comes from a research agenda that Bruce Baker, who's also on this call, and myself developed in a community college resource work group that was organized by the Century Foundation. And we laid out this research agenda to really try to show how we could apply methods that have been implemented at the K-12 sector for decades now to the post-secondary sector. And we chose community colleges to start off with. So we've done 2 studies thus far looking at the costs of providing community college education, and this has been done in support of the great work that the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has been doing in informing policy debate in the state. So let me get a little bit into this research and what the goal of this research is, because this is really an extension of the second study that we did, which was really at the heart of it. We were costing out individual courses using the wonderful data that ERC has. We were costing out the individual courses and then matching this up to the course pathways that successful students who successfully obtained an AA degree got. So we were able to really cost out individual course pathways towards an AA degree. And this is where that study stopped. So we came up with some very nice estimates of the average cost of a student completing one of the 5 most prevalent AA degrees in Texas. What we also observed there is around these averages was a very large variations. And that's where this proposed research takes off. We would like to delve back in and try to disentangle and explain the variation around these averages. Just to let you know, if you're interested, the AA degrees, the 5 most prevalent AA degrees we looked at were general studies, liberal arts and sciences, registered nursing, business administration and management, and business commerce. So what do we want to do when we go back in and look at these data, look at these cost calculations and the averages and try to explain the variation around them? Well, we want to see if we can explain variation in costs by student needs, institutional characteristics, and of course, across the different programs. And I think that is almost just scratching the surface. We can go much farther than that. What benefits might accrue to Texas from this research? Well, we can try to identify those subsets of students or costs that have the most efficient pathways, and then really dig into the information and try to tell policymakers and practitioners what the characteristics of those pathways look like. This could lead to improved curricula development, course scheduling, also improved practice in, or at least targeting of counseling services to help, for instance, first-generation college goers get the counseling they need, they both deserve and need to navigate the system to more efficiently obtain their AA degree. I think I'm going to stop there. My 3 minutes are probably up. I have not been keeping a timer, but I invite any questions that you have. Or actually, Bruce, do you want to add anything to this? I see your face on the screen.
No, I really have much to add. I mean, it really is about mining the data on the student transcripts, looking at cohorts of completers, tracing back the pathways they achieved to completion, and looking at cohorts of starters and identifying the most common actual pathways that students take to completing certain degrees and programs, which may differ from the prescribed pathways of requirements, but also even within those prescribed pathways, there are different courses, sections, and timings of those courses that then put students into different enrollment configurations, class sizes, and so on, that give us information about what are the best ways to complete this degree or that degree across different types of students and settings, and what are the costs associated with those different pathways. So it's very much kind of a data mining of student transcript information among completers and starters across different points in time.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve, Celeste.
Second.
Angie, I'll move to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Melissa, can I ask one question? I've been in contact with Camila about her proposal.
Okay.
And it does seem that she wants the graduation data that Celeste mentioned. And so I'm wondering, it seems as if we have to formally acknowledge in the board meeting that the proposal will be amended to include that file, correct?
Yes, let's go ahead and redo
Okay.
the motion approval. Just
okay, yeah, I just don't want this to be an issue. I'd rather just nip it in the bud right now, if that's possible.
Thank you. What was it? Proposal 5? Proposal 5, right?
Yes, proposal 5.
Okay, so one moment, please, while I pull up my notes of the. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve proposal 5? Let me put it back on proposal so I can read the whole thing. Sorry.
Before you say anything, before you make a motion, Melissa, or before you ask a question, do we have to do anything to reverse what's already been approved?
I don't know. Maybe a second. The lawyers.
And/or is the motion to amend what's already been approved?
They're good questions. Let me chat someone who knows better than I do. Oh, yes. Sorry, while I figure out the proper procedure for this, we can proceed, but
yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay. So where are we? Proposal 8, including remote access requests UTD 198, returns to post-secondary choices. Somebody here to talk to us about this project?
That's me. Hello. Thank you for having us. My name is Heather Little. My research partner, Rafe Qureshi, who's also on the call, and I are both PhD students at UW-Madison studying economics. And as you see, our project is titled Returns to Post-Secondary Choices. So to achieve the goal that 60% of working aged Texans have post-secondary credentials of value by 2030, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is committed to helping potential students navigate the many and sometimes confusing decisions that one makes for higher education. It's already possible to advise students that attending higher quality colleges or choosing certain majors can increase their average earnings after college. But our work is going to help the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board inform students with additional important information. Since some careers can be more or less susceptible to factors in the market that relate to hiring and firing, earnings can be more or less risky in those careers. So we're going to study whether the riskiness of career tracks affects people's return by major after college, and if there's any evidence that people, especially people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, choose not to major in specific fields because of this earnings risk. We're also interested in considering how a college's location within a labor market affects graduates' post-college earnings. When someone attends college in person, their college experience is situated within whatever surrounding area their college is located in. And it could be that exposure to a stronger local labor market during the college career better situates a graduate when they're entering into the labor force than if they've been attending college in a weaker labor market. Understanding how these subtler dimensions like earnings risk associated with a college major or the importance of exposure to a stronger local labor market during college will provide new insights about how post-secondary experiences can create value for students. These insights could be incorporated into tools like My Future Texas or be used in other ways to help students in Texas pursue meaningful degrees and graduate with manageable debt. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you and for reviewing our proposal, and we look forward to your questions and comments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Jacqueline. I motion to approve.
This is Rayan. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, got the answer. We can amend the prior approved proposal to add the data. So do I have a motion to, sorry, they sent me language. Do I have a motion to amend proposal 5 to add the request of CBM 009?
This is Rayan. I move to approve.
Got a second?
I second Holly.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
No, good to catch it now. All right, so moving on to proposal 9, including remote access request, UH 074, heterogeneous school funding, teachers labor market, and educational outcomes in Texas.
Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriel. I'm a PhD student and member of Texas Policy Lab at Rice University. I'm here representing Marcus Lee and Flavio Cunha, my colleagues in this project. So in this upcoming research, we seek to understand the relationship between school funding, the teacher labor market, and education outcomes. We know that funding is very unequal across Texas, and that there is the recapture policy or the Robin Hood policy to account for this inequality. But there is still some differences in school financing due to daily attendance and property taxes. So our primary goal here is to understand how this diverse funding affects teachers' labor market dynamics. So we are looking for variables such as teacher wages, retention, transition, and attrition. And we are also going to look at the effects on student outcomes. So we wish to use the ERC data to figure out how to attract and retain better teachers to its occupation. And we want to find if this is somewhat related to funding. Given this, we plan to use this data to know how teachers are distributed across the school districts and what are their main incentives when they are looking for a job. For this manner, we are going to use a search theory model in economics to understand their incentives. So our goal here is to provide insights that can help policymakers in Texas to make informed decisions about funding, teacher compensation, and improving education in general. So we intend to provide a data-driven debate about equity and efficiency in school funding. And that's all. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board for the researcher? Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Kathy. I'll move to approve.
Angie, I'll move to second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Moving on to proposal 10, including remote access request UH 075, the effects of domain general and domain specific item features on item difficulty of STEM assessments and English language learners and non-English language learners. We have someone here to talk us through this project.
Hello, my name is Paulina Kulesh. I'm a research associate professor at the University of Houston, and I work on this project with David Francis, who's on the call, and I will provide a brief summary of the project. English learners face two potential sources of variability in difficulty of math and science items. One such source is dependent on domain-specific linguistic and non-linguistic item features and influences item difficulty for both ELs and non-ELs, though the impact might be greater for ELs due to linguistic and cultural issues. The second source of variability is dependent on domain general, lexical, and syntactic item features that are closely related to language proficiency and has been shown to exert a greater influence on item difficulty for English learners. This project aims to inform which item features affect assessment of math and science items among ELs in unintended ways. The project's objectives are twofold. First of all, we would like to describe differential item functioning for English language learners with low proficiency and high proficiency in English, which will be identified using TELPAS. And this differential item functioning will be looked in both math and science items. And then the second objective is to explain the sources of differential item functioning for low proficiency ELs and high proficiency ELs in STAR math and science items using explanatory item response models that allow to look at item level data and explain sources of variability in both item difficulty and ability. So for this project, we will need to access the statewide data housed in the ERC. Statewide data is essential to the proposed project in order to identify a large and diverse sample of schools and students to fully capture students' performance on the STAR math and science items in grades 5 and 8 in years 2017 and 2021, as well as to distinguish among low and high proficiency English language learners using, as I mentioned before, TELPAS, and again, for years 2017 and 2021, grades 5 and 8. And while this project doesn't yield an immediate contribution to education policy in Texas, we envision 3 types of potential benefits to the state. First one is providing information that can be leveraged to mitigate the effects of differential item functioning in future content assessments. through the development of accessibility resources. Second, providing information for alternate scoring of existing tests to yield sources that are more informative about content, area knowledge for students affected by differential item functioning. And finally, last one, identifying targets for instruction and potential intervention to assess students in investigating language demands of the test. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments from the board, from the researchers?
I just had a quick question on whether you're planning to link students to teachers.
No, we weren't planning to do that directly.
Okay, perfect.
A motion to approve.
This is Rayan. I move to approve.
I'll second Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so the next agenda item is consideration and possible, wait, oh gosh. I'm too ahead. Proposal 11. I have too many papers. Proposal 11, including remote access requests UH 076, exploring charter school leaders' career trajectories in Texas.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is the first time I've sat in front of this board. Thrilled to be here. My name's Anna Moyer. I'm a PhD candidate at Vanderbilt University, and this research proposal builds on some of the work that I'm doing in my dissertation, which focuses on a very similar topic, but in the state of Michigan. And so this would be an opportunity to expand to a new context with a slightly different charter policy as well as data. So broadly, this project is focused on charter school leaders' pathways to the principalship, and this is going to provide some important information to Texas policymakers and practitioners about principal labor markets in Texas. Specifically, it's going to help us understand the supply of who is becoming principals and what their professional experiences are along the pathway, which can help us know more about the training they're receiving before they step into that really important leadership role. And of course, like we all know how important leaders are in schools, but this tends to be a slightly understudied topic, especially in the charter sector. And so knowing more about those past professional pathways can give us insight into the skills that they gain along that pathway. As you all know, charter schools are a non-trivial percentage of schools in Texas. About 7% of students are enrolled in charter schools in the state, and that sector is growing with a 3% increase in enrollment in the 2021 school year. And just this morning, I actually read about increased charter enrollment nationwide, so this has national implications as well. So we do know a bit about charter school pathways, and a lot of that work has been done by researchers who have accessed the ERC data. We know that there are racial and gender disparities in who moves into the principalship and how long it takes them to move into the principalship. But that work by, again, researchers in Texas, it looks at traditional public schools. And so this focus would be on the charter sector. And the reason that I focus on the charter sector is because we know that charter schools might be more likely to have innovative practices, at least in theory, around their staffing. And with that opportunity to innovate, we might expect different pathways into the principalship. For example, in my work in Michigan, I see a lot more people coming into the principalship without education experience, or maybe coming from different states into the principalship. So there might be more people moving into those roles in a very different way, whereas we tend to see more grow your own programs in traditional public schools. So I have 3 broad research questions I'll share, and I'm happy to answer more questions about methods or details. The first research question is, what are charter schools educators' pathways to the principalship? So with this, I'm going to take a cohort of principals and look at what they did before. Did they go teacher, AP, principal? Did they skip over that AP role, which is often a big training ground for the principalship? I'm going to trace those pathways for that particular cohort, which will be a recent cohort of principals. My second research question looks at the factors that predict or inhibit educators' movement into the principalship. And here I'm specifically looking at personal characteristics like racial, ethnic, and gender identities, professional experiences, what jobs they had in the past, how many years of experience they have, principal characteristics, the people that are supervising them, what are the characteristics of their principals who often act as their mentors, and then school context. So where are they located? What type of charter school, independent versus network, those kinds of characteristics. And then finally, my third research question, just to contextualize what's happening in the charter sector, I want to look at what's happening in the traditional public school sector so that I can compare and contrast how these might be similar or different. And it would just be reporting on the differences that I find to contextualize how we might understand the pathways in the charter sector in the state. So again, I'm very excited about this work, to work with all of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Great, thank you so much. Any questions or comments from the board?
I was just gonna ask that the 2 different tables for data seem a little different, and I was worried that they didn't contain everything that you needed. On page 2 and page 14.
Thank you for your detailed eye.
On page 2, my concern is that under coordinating board, you're only requesting 008. And I'm assuming you wanted a little bit more, including like 009 and maybe 001.
Yes, that's right. I'm very excited about being able to look at charter school principals who might come from outside education. So I appreciate that catch. I would like to include those variables so I can see what they were doing previously if they weren't in schools.
Sorry, could you clarify that, like if they were enrolled or if they were, how would that data be used in this case?
Yeah. So for any principals who don't have experience as teachers or APs or some other educator role, I'd like to see what sector they were working in before they became the principals of charter schools.
Okay, yeah, that information wouldn't be from the higher ed enrollment data.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood the question.
Yeah, you need that from the wage data.
Yes, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question.
Yeah, and that would be the NAICS code.
Thank you for clarifying.
So
Go ahead.
all you need from the higher ed sector is information about instructors, then I would say you should add the OC8 because that is the newest version of the 008.
Okay, yes, that's it. Thank you.
Echoing a question Melissa had earlier, because I've had researchers that have dealt with this. There's usually only one principal to a school, and I was just thinking about the small cell issue because there are a small number of principals, particularly for charter, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I appreciate you asking it. So part of the reason that, Texas is appealing is because of the large number of charters, but to account for any small cell size because of the principal issue, I'm going to take a cohort of multiple years and look backwards at their pathways. So instead of focusing on just the most recent years, I'll focus on the 5 most recent years. And because principal turnover is often quite large, that should assure me about, I'm guessing here, at least 1,000 people in that cohort to look at.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, I'm sorry for the previous question, I'm just looking to see the highest degree attained as part of my model for predicting movement into the principalship. So that's what I'm using the higher ed data for.
Oh, then the 8 is not what you need. Probably what you need is the 9.
Oh, 9. Yeah.
That's completion or degree completion information.
Thank you very much for providing that context and flagging it. I appreciate it.
And just to go back to the masking question again, a lot of times staff data is not does not need to be masked. It's not covered by FERPA. So I'm not sure exactly what you're planning on providing out, but
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'll just be reporting trends, right? Like these are the top 10 pathways into the principalship. So even though, I obviously want to respect everyone's privacy, I won't be reporting any individual pathways, but more like the top 10 or the average pathway into the principalship.
But still, for clarification on the ERCs, it's still 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. As far as the cell size. Is that correct, Melissa, as far as even if they're teachers or principals?
Yes. Sorry. Also, there are rules about masking the wage information. So even if the count of educators isn't under FERPA, the wage of information would also need to be masked.
That makes sense. I'll be reporting the averages or using them as control variables in my model.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve with the amendment to remove the request for the 008 and add a request for the 009?
A motion to approve.
Second, Celeste.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Passes. Thank you. All right, proposal 12, including remote access request, UH 077, impacts of state policy on CS participation. Anyone here to talk to us about this?
Yes, that would be me. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. And I realize that I'm up towards the very end, so I'm going to try to be brief. I'm Tuan Nguyen. I'm an associate professor at Kansas State University. So this is joint work with Paul Bruno, who is at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. So our work is really thinking about what are the impacts of computer science policies on student as well as teacher outcomes. So over the last 15 to 20 years, states have increasingly adopted and invested in policies to really broaden participation in computer science coursework, as well as the availability of qualified computer science teachers. But as of this point, to our knowledge, there is no clear evidence on the extent to which these policies have any effects. So our project really will perform a policy analysis to determine if these state policies have had any effects. So in particular, we think about whether or not the policies aim to promote computer science course taking, whether or not it's meant to expand the computer science teacher supply, or to really just to demonstrate general commitment to computer science education. Do any of these things actually move the needle on high school course taking or the number of computer science teachers? So to do this work, we need data from the ERC to do this. In particular, you are able to connect high school, you have data on high school course taking, you have undergraduate enrollment, you have data on high school teachers and teacher certifications. So with the data spanning from 2000 to 2023 or 2024, that will allow us to link the specific policies to specific outcomes. So then we are able to identify the effects of these computer science policies on a range of students' outcomes. And potentially, we may be able to identify which policies may have the greatest effects. So in terms of how this is important for Texas, Texas, has had a history of investing in computer science education. So for instance, in 2014, that you require computer science as part of high school course taking. In 2017 and 2018, you have certification requirement for computer science teachers. In 2022, you've put in about $2.5 million towards computer science educations. So the question is, do these things have an effect on high school course taking or computer science teachers certification? So using the latest methods of causal inference in studying staggered policy adoptions, we will provide sort of the most rigorous causal evidence to date about the impacts of these policies in computer science participation in Texas and how those impacts may vary over time. So this will speak to sort of the broader areas of education research and policy that are important for participation, but also for educational equity generally, because we'll also look at subgroup analysis to see, does this in particular have an effect on female students and students of color? All right, so I have a lot more to go on, but I'll stop here and I'll open it up to any questions that you may have for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, so I might have missed this when I was reading the proposal, but you talk about computer science policies very generally. And, in your pitch, you did a really nice job of identifying how Texas has specifically passed policy or legislation to increase participation in computer science. And so I'm wondering if the proposal could be strengthened by including that specific information to motivate the proposal.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely add that in. That would not be difficult to add in descriptions of some of the policies that Texas in particular have passed. Yeah.
Is table 1 kind of getting at that?
Well, it kind of categorizes CS policies in general, but I don't think it identifies the specific efforts that Texas policymakers are engaging in to improve. Because when I was reading the proposal, I was wondering, are there specific things that Texas has done? And that was unclear when I read the proposal. So yeah, I just thought that greater specificity could strengthen proposal. I'm not saying that it should not pass because of it, but it just might be useful information for people looking at this kind of work.
Yep, I can definitely add that in. That should not be very difficult at all.
I wondered if you could give us a little more detail on the post-secondary outcomes. I got a sense of what you would probably be looking at based on the data you're requesting, but just wanted to hear how you'll be looking at those.
Oh, sure. So for instance, I think we're going to look at it two ways. One is to see at sort of broadest level, are there more students becoming computer science majors? Are they enrolling in computer science? Are they graduating as computer science majors? And then the other will be to look at, are they in general taking more computer science courses in college, right? Because that's indicative that they may not be computer science majors at the end of their 4-year, but maybe they're interested in doing computer science work, or they want to be computer science teachers. So overall, we could potentially see an uptake in computer science taking behaviors, and it would be good to sort of document that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions or comments from the board?
I think I want to propose a couple data sets for you. You mentioned under THCB data table, you're going to look at college readiness measures, and that's in CBM 002. So you might want to request that. And credit hours or semester credit hours, those are in WS. So you might need that as well.
Yeah, the S will have the details of what course they're taking as well. So if you're specifically interested in, are they taking more computer science courses? That's where that would be.
Okay, so I heard CBM 002, and then what was the other one?
OOS.
CBM OOS?
Yes.
Okay.
And the OCS to go together.
All right, thank you very much for that, the suggestions. I will add those in.
And the ACT and SAT files, those are not.
Yeah. Is that TEA's files?
Yeah.
Yeah, you request the ACT and SAT files, and those are only available through for certain years and through specific request. But the 002 has those files if they enrolled and or has those scores if they enrolled and those scores were used for their college readiness.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or comments? Would does the board want to request amendments to the proposal for policy information with an approval, or is this something we would feel more comfortable with? Okay.
Yeah, my intent, I just said, like, if anyone is looking at the proposal, like an external person who is interested in this particular topic, I think they would want to know what Texas was doing specifically. So I'm not suggesting we conditionally approve the proposal, but including that information would be helpful. So I would recommend to approve.
If any other board members have a thought about it, let me know, but I'm happy to craft a motion. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve with the amendment of the addition of specific policy information to the proposal and the addition of the request of the 002 and the OOS?
I motion to approve.
I second Celeste.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Proposal 13, including remote access requests, UH 078, the effects of grade retention on English learner students at Gateway or Gatekeeper.
Hi everyone, I'm Diana Quintero. I'm a PhD student at Vanderbilt University. And in this project, I'm looking at grade retention for the students classified as English learners. These students, we know that there are large gaps between ELLs or non-ELLs in math and reading and graduation rates. And a lot of research has examined policies directly for English learners, but it's also important to look at other type of education policies that are for all students, but how they are affecting English learners. So in this project, I'm examining grade retention, which has gotten a lot of attention in the past years. A growing body of literature is looking at the effects of grade retention on students, mainly short-term outcomes. And we don't know much about what happens in the post-secondary and labor market outcomes, which I'm planning to study. And also, we don't know what happens with English learners. So Texas provides a unique setting for studying this research question because there is a large proportion of English learners and the policy of retention has been implemented for a long time. And also, we are able to do different subgroup analysis. So my first research question looks at what are the predictors, student and school characteristics that predict retention for English learner students. And the second question will use a regression discontinuity design to estimate the impact on retention for different outcomes on students in English proficiency using TELPAS, but also graduation rates, post-secondary enrollment, and earnings. And also, in the third research question, I'm looking at the school resources, the variation of these effects, if they are related to how much money the schools have implemented in the Student Success Initiative, that is the one related with retention and the support that the students received after being retained. So this is, I want to be quick given the time, but thank you so much for having me here, and I'm looking forward to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I was just looking at the data table. Do the ERCs have data, NSE data that extend to 2020?
We do not right now.
So what are the years that NSE data are available for? That just might be for my own knowledge as well.
Those most recent ones are the 17 and 18.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that in the proposal, I put the most current ones, or
Any other questions or comments? That's just a very well-written, clear proposal. Do I have a motion to approve?
This is Jackie. I motion to approve.
Second? A second, Eugene. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much.
great. Thank you so much.
Next item, consideration of possible action to approve request for remote access to data. So this one is a commissioner-directed project from the coordinating board. Comparative analysis of subsequent course performance for dual credit students. This was just sent, right? Yesterday. So look in your email if you haven't. But we are approving the remote access form only for this. Believe the researcher was going to be here today in case there are questions. Okay. Happy to read through the research questions. How do students who took the first course in the 2-course sequence in dual credit perform in the second course relative to students who took the first course while in college? And what variation exists among students who took dual credit courses from different institutions when comparing their performance in the second course? Happy to answer any question. Yes. Or try to answer questions. This is only just to note, only using higher ed data, not linking to TEA or wage data.
Melissa, just as a reminder, because it's been a minute since I've thought about this, for commissioner directed projects, we're really not offering comment on the proposal itself. Because
not the board meeting, no. I mean, I think we could talk about it if there are thoughts, but the board only, as it stands now in our operating procedures, we only actually approve and vote on the remote access piece of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to, that was my memory, but I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
No, it has been a while, so good reminder. Do I have a motion to approve? project or this remote access?
This is Kathy. I move to approve remote access for this project.
Second,
This is Rayon. I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And last item is adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Yep.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
I appreciate all your time. Great, exciting work happening.
Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
Thank you, Melissa.
Happy
Bye.
end
Thank
of
you.
the year.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Happy New
Happy
Year
New
and happy
Year.
holidays.